Rockinitis.
Hi, cats and kittens. My name is Micael Willmore, and the program is Rockinitis. And I have a special guest with me today, Meaghan Kennedy.
Hey.
Now, is it Meaghan or Meaghan?
It's Meaghan.
Meaghan, okay.
Yes.
It's got a bit of a different spelling.
It sure does. My parents were like, throw them all in there.
Anyway, so we're gonna. Do you remember the first time you met me?
At the baseball game.
No.
Where does the first time I met you?
The first time we met you was at the Vancouver Art Gallery.
Okay, yes. Oh, I thought that was the second time we met.
No,
I remember
no.
meeting you at the baseball game.
No, I went to, they had a do on at the Vancouver Art Gallery, which they said in the paper, anybody who wants to see and be seen will be there. So I thought, should I go? Because all the trendies are going to go, and all the people that want to see and be seen, and I don't really want to, I don't care about any of that. But I thought it sounded like an interesting event,
Yeah.
So I went there. I had sort of a good time. I mean, there was a lot of things going on there, interesting stuff. As I was leaving, they had a gate around it, so only the invited public got to go in.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway, I come walking towards the gate. You step out from the gate and you go, "I love you." Do you remember that?
I do.
And I thought, who is this gorgeous redhead says he loves me? So I went, yes, I love you too. Anyway, so we kind of started talking. Turns out you were a Rockinitis fan.
Yes.
Which I was highly impressed with.
Yes.
And then I remember sitting there holding your hands because look at these. Look at these, ladies and gentlemen. Have you ever seen anything like this in your life? Anyway, you had such gorgeous hands.
Thanks.
That I just couldn't stop. I couldn't stop holding them. Anyway, we talked, and I felt like I'd known you for years.
Yeah.
And we just met. So we talked about the show, we talked about what you do and all that. And you told me, I said, what do you do? And you said, I'm a professional piñata maker. I thought, what the hell is that?
I know,
I mean, you make piñatas for a living.
Mm-hmm.
And I never heard of anything like that. So you explained to me what you do. You live in the West End. You have a small apartment with a little workshop in it where you churn them out. You basically do piñatas to order.
Yes.
So people, how do they get in touch with you? How does somebody get in touch with you to order a piñata?
So someone will see me like on Rockinitis.
Yes.
And go, that's a cool idea. And then you can email me at yourpiñata.com.
Okay, say it slower.
Yourpiñata.com.
Okay.
and just shoot me an email with a couple pictures in it of the person or animal or logo or whatever it is that you want made. And think of like lots of inside jokes because it's totally custom, right? So right now I just finished making you actually I think were over while I was making it, which was a guy in a kayak with a Dungeness crab and a ping pong racket with a ball in it in the other hand. So that's like his wife commissioned it. He's wearing his favorite sports jersey, and he's doing what he loves in this piñata, which are my favorite commissions to do.
Okay, so say you've got an Uncle Bernie, and say he's got all these egocentric things about him or something like that. So they go, Uncle Bernie, he's got everything. What am I going to give him for his birthday?
Yeah, exactly.
So you go, I know, I'll give him a custom-made piñata. And so, like, Uncle Bernie, he wears dark sunglasses all the time, and he also wears a little bowler hat. So they'll tell you this, and then next thing you know, you make a piñata with a bowler hat and sunglasses, and then it's given to Uncle Bernie. Later. So that's and you actually make a living doing that?
I do.
You can pay your rent doing that?
Yeah, I mean, that's about all I can do. No, I'm medium kidding.
What did you do before you did that?
Well, I worked retail. I ran a clothing store out of Toronto, which brought me out to Vancouver, and I expanded that retail company across the country. And I left that company and I worked at Leone for 5 years. And I kind of helped them redo this area called L2, which was like a hip area in downtown, or downstairs. And then after doing that for a few years, the economy shifted and it wasn't really fun to engage with people who were shopping anymore. People were very self-conscious. They didn't have the funds they used to have. So instead of like, hey, how's it going? Let's go shopping. It was like, oh no, I'm just looking. And it became kind of a bit confrontational. So I kind of went to the library and I took out a book on how to make piñatas. So I thought it'd be fun to make one for my birthday. And it was super fun.
And that was the first one you ever did?
The first one I ever made. It was a pink poodle I glued like cotton balls all over the head as like hair. And it was really ugly, but it was super fun to make. And I brought it to Talent Time, a local show here.
Yes.
And which we both know and love.
Yes.
And Paul Anthony graciously took it up on stage with him, and all these people
Did he smash it?
Well, everyone in the audience whose birthday was that month got to go up and smash it. And I thought it would be really hard to watch this thing I'd spent 3 weeks on my floor after work making.
Yeah.
It was actually awesome, and people, someone picked it up and like wore the head around afterwards, and everyone like had this moment where they put everything down and they really engaged in this moment, and I liked that it kind of created this collective memory and this collective excitement thing together. And then after that, it just I was like, I'm hooked, I've got to do this. So I was making someone was like, oh, I love cats. So I went to their birthday party and I brought a cat piñata. And then I just kind of started making them for fun. And then someone called me up one day and said, I'd love to pay you to make me one of my friend. And I was like, okay. And then maybe 2 months later, I quit my job. And I was like, I could do this.
Wow.
Yeah.
Actually, quitting your job and making a living with your hobby is wonderful.
It's amazing.
Okay, now this is a music show.
Yeah.
And so it's not going to be a piñata show.
No, it should be a music show.
It's a music show. Now, the only guy I can think of musically that ties in with piñatas is Richie Valens.
It's perfect.
Now, Richie Valens was a Chicano artist or a Mexican-American artist. Oddly enough, he didn't speak Spanish and never did, but he's from that background. And he also came up with the iconic tune La Bamba, which everybody and his dog does. Yeah. And if you go to Mexico, like every time I go to Mexico, I hear about 30 or 40 versions of every club you go to. Within 10 songs, you'll hear La Bamba, right?
Yeah.
So it's like such a huge...
It's such a great track, right?
So, but we're going to do a historical kind of look at Richie Valens and what he was about.
Awesome.
So his very first record, 1958, it made number 7 in Vancouver, and it was on the charts for 15 weeks. And I like the flip side probably more than I like the A-side. The A-side is called Come On, Let's Go, and the flip side is called Framed, which was originally by the Coasters, but Richie Valens' version it sort of eclipses the original. I prefer it. I think it's just fabulous. Both sides of Richie Valens' very first record, which are on his first album, actually. So we'll play this and we'll beam the vibes at it to get it to work. We don't need the gloves, though.
No.
Come On, Let's Go, Richie Valens.
walking down the street minding my own affair when two policemen grabbed me unaware. They says, your name Henry, I says, why sure. He says, you the boy I've been looking for. I was framed, I was blamed, well, I never do nothing, but I always get framed. Oh, framed. They took him in the lineup and let those bright lights shine. There was 10 poor souls like me.
Okay, that's both sides of Richie Valens' very first record when it was released on a single, 1958, made number 7 in Vancouver, huge hit. And we're covering Richie Valens. We're referring to Richie Valens in this show because my guest here is a professional piñata maker, and the only music you can think of that goes with piñatas is Mexican as well, which is Richie
perfect.
Valens. So it fits in. So Richie Valens' second 45 was probably even bigger hit because it was a double-sided smash hit record. Both sides went right to the top of the charts. Now, you got to remember, this guy was 16 years old at the time. 16 years old.
Crazy.
And he had 3 million sellers in his 16th year.
Wow.
Or actually, going into the 17th year. But in that 1 year period, he had 3 million sellers.
Wow.
And then unfortunately he got killed in a plane crash with Buddy Holly and the Big Bopper, which was I don't know, a tragic event that was beyond comprehension. All 3 of them got killed. 3 of the top rock stars of the 50s, all killed in the same instance.
The day the music died.
Yeah, you got it.
Yeah.
We interrupt this program for a special news bulletin. 3 young singers who soared to the heights of show business on the current rock and roll craze were killed today in the crash of a light plane in an Iowa snow flurry. The singers were identified as Richie Valens, 17, Buddy Holly, 22, and J.P. Richardson, known professionally as the Big Bopper. The aircraft, chartered from the Dwyer Flying Service, crashed near Mason City, ironically the setting for the prominent musical The Music Man. The pilot, Roger Peterson of Clear Lake, Iowa, was also killed. The 3 singers had appeared at the Surf Ballroom in Clear Lake, Iowa last night and were on their way to Fargo, North Dakota. Their small chartered plane crashed in a lonely farmyard about 15 miles northwest of Mason City. Cause of the crash was due to inclement weather conditions. Details upcoming from Action Central News.
We're going to go now to his second record, 1958. Donna was the A-side, but they were both A-sides, really. And Donna made number 2, and it was on the charts 8 weeks. And the flip side, La Bamba, like we were saying, has basically become a standard to the point where it's kind of like a national anthem almost of Mexico.
It's a great song to play while you're smashing a piñata.
Is it?
Yeah, I think
Have
so.
you smashed a piñata
Totally.
too? Okay.
Totally.
Do you ever do any Mexican piñatas?
I did a bunch of big Mexican wrestlers a few years ago,
Okay.
which were awesome. They
Well,
were
Mexican-
the size of real people, too. They were really
Oh,
amazing.
really?
Yeah, they
You
were
can do
huge.
piñatas that big?
Yeah, I've done bigger, but yeah, they were amazing.
Now,
And
what
they
do
hung
you-
in the air, and one had the other one in a leg lock around his head.
Oh,
It
okay.
was awesome.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow, that must have taken you a while.
It did.
How do you got room in your little apartment for doing that?
I did them kind of like a few at a time. I did a Cinco de Mayo themed show
Okay.
for Ion magazine a
Okay.
few years ago at one of their pop-ups, which was awesome. Yeah.
Sounds good.
Yeah, it was fun. And
Anyway.
we played La Bamba.
Anyway, Donna, the first side we're going to play here, this guy was a Mexican-American guy. He went to Pacoima Junior High School, or Pacoima High School, and he got involved with I don't know what you'd call her, kind of a cheerleader type girl called Donna. Her father absolutely couldn't stand Richie Valens even coming on the property because he was Mexican-American, and he was saying, "Why do you want to hang out with all those wonderful-looking varsity boys, that are on the football team and that? What do you want to go with a guy like that for?" Anyway, he basically disapproved of the relationship. So this song is very real. This is Richie Valens singing a tribute to the girl he's in love with that he's prevented from seeing. And her name was Donna. Beam the vibes.
So tragic.
Okay, that's Richie Valens' flip side of Donna. I really think that record deserved its own highlighted single release. So I would have preferred, if I was in charge of, the great musical universe, I would have put La Bamba as a totally unique, separate single from Donna. But it was a flip side. But both sides sold 1 million at least. In fact, they've probably gone on to sell 4 or 5 million since. And La Bamba made number 5 in Vancouver and was on the charts 9 weeks in 1959.
Wow.
So, flip side of Donna, but a tune in its own right for sure. And so we're discussing you making piñatas and having a Mexican connection and all that. Have you been to Mexico?
I have never been to Mexico.
No.
I know, it makes
Really?
no sense.
Hey,
I obviously need to go.
Let's go. Let's go.
Perfect.
Next week.
Yeah, awesome.
Anyway, it's a fabulous country. There's a few things I disagree with. The Mexican people are very messy. So often you go to a fabulous, glorious outdoor site and there's garbage all over the place. I don't like that idea. So there'll be sometimes, like we went through, one of the times we went there, we went through the Yucatan Peninsula, and you go on the train, and all the trestle overhead train tracks are built like crossing valleys and things. They were built by the British, which made me feel a little better, because if the Mexicans had built them, I would be worried they might fall down when I'm going across, Right. So anyways, we went to all these little villages, and the people still live in almost glorified mud huts. And they're like thatched roofs and stuff like that. And so they have a window that's an open window, and right outside the window there's a pile of garbage this high.
Oh, that's so weird.
Like they just throw stuff, away, like out the window, and I don't know. You don't sort of, clean up your own backyard, I say.
Yeah.
Anyway, fabulous country, beautiful sights, and it still kind of reminds you so much in so many ways of old Mexico from maybe 100 years ago and that kind of thing. So I had a wonderful time.
I'd really like to go.
Yeah.
I'd really
well, you
like
gotta go. And Richie Valens' next release was a strange one. I've never figured it out. It's a double-sided instrumental.
Oh.
Now, I've been sort of disillusioned in a way, because I found out, like when Richie Valens played here in 1958, he played at the Pender Auditorium, and apparently when he came here he was really worried that he needed a lead guitarist. So I always thought Richie Valens played lead guitar on his own records. So I was thinking to myself, why would he be worried about having a lead guitarist when he plays guitar, like lead guitar?
Yeah.
So then I found out that on the session he had a guy covering him, kind of thing, or a guy, he played guitar on the session, Richie Valens, but he had a guy called Rene Hall. Now, Rene Hall was a renowned session player that played on hundreds of records. And he had Rene Hall was a black musician that played on everybody's records. But he had another black player called Earl Palmer on the drums. And Carol Kay, who was a female bass player, played Dan Electro bass. So he's backed up by this session group, which later became associated with the term the Wrecking Crew. So they made a movie about them and everything,
Okay.
and they interviewed them and talked about them and all that kind of junk. And so I'm thinking it must be Rene Hall playing lead guitar with Richie Valens playing second guitar.
Yeah.
So I was so concerned about this that I emailed Richie Valens' brother. And he's Bob Valens.
Okay.
So anyway, I said, did Ritchie play lead guitar on his records or not? So he sends me back a picture of Richie Valens' guitar. Here's Richie Valens' guitar, he says. But he didn't answer the question.
Didn't answer it.
So I'm still a little bit, not quite sure that it's Richie Valens playing lead guitar or not. It possibly is Rene Hall. Anyway, this is an oddball release, a double-sided instrumental. This was his third single, and let's listen to it. Maybe you can figure out whether it's Ritchie playing guitar or Rene Hall. So let's give it some vibes here. So Richie Valens' third single was, oddly enough, a double-sided instrumental, and I don't know quite why that is, because you're unlikely to get a hit if you put out an instrumental after having 3 top 10 vocal hits. Why would you put out an instrumental which doesn't even feature your vocal? Now, Richie Valens' vocal he's got a cartoon voice. I mean, it's really unique. You'd think. But there were people that were influenced by him. Other Chicano artists, other Mexican-American artists that got in on the wake or the doors that he pushed open. They rushed through right behind him. And there was a guy called Eddie Quinteros, and I've got these 2 little booklets here. I don't think there was ever a third, but they're put out by a guy called Wayne Russell. He's a Canadian guy from Brandon, Manitoba. And it has all these fabulous pictures of really obscure rock and roll guys from the 50s and stuff. And if you can just have a quick perusal here, it shows, if it's a well-known artist, it's usually a photo that you've never seen before. That's, you go, I've never seen that picture before. And it's an amazing guy, right? And so, here's like Jody Reynolds that did the original version of Endless Sleep. I mean, how many pictures do you see of him? Anyway, they're all really great shots. Anyway, there's a Richie Valens, or at least there's a Richie Valens impersonator, I guess you'd call him, in here. That, I gotta find it here. Where is it? Where'd it go? Give me a second. Here it is. Okay, this guy is called Eddie Quinteros. And here he is right here. I don't know if you can find that. You can. Anyway, this is the only picture I've ever seen of this guy. Right where he is. Right here. Trying to get it so it doesn't flare. That guy. Eddie Quinteros. Anyway, he had a Richie Valens sound-alike record called Come Dance With Me. And I thought, yeah, I remember hearing that, but I don't know that other people would have heard it. I mean, maybe they only played it a couple of times. Anyways, I researched it. This was actually a big hit in Vancouver. 1960, it made number 11 in Vancouver. Eddie Quinteros was from San Francisco, and he recorded on the Brent record label. And you tell me if this doesn't sound exactly like Richie Valens. Now, that guy, you would think he was a total obscurity, but he had a big hit in this town with that very tune, which came out a couple of years, or no, maybe a year and a half after Richie Valens passed away. Okay, bye for now. This has been Rockinitis. My name is Micael Willmore, and this is Meaghan Kennedy, the Piñata maker. And you can contact her at yourpiñata.com. Okay, that was fun.
Rockinitis.
Well, I gotta go to heaven, but I've been told that the Rockinitis has got my soul. Well, I gotta get home before the sun, but the Rockinitis wouldn't let me run. Well, baby, baby, give me one more chance. When I heard that music, I had to dance. Well, I gotta keep a rockin', but I've been told that the Rockinitis